Welcome to Red Alert. I'm your host, Ryan Panny. Sitting to my right is Jake Ferrari, who's here to talk about all the major moves in the NFL offseason.
That's right, Ryan. Unlike the sluggish and boring MLB offseason, fans have been treated to non-stop action thus far, which I love.
There have been many head-turning moves and some head-scratchers as well. One of the biggest head-turners for me has been seeing Redskins quarterback Kirk Cousins off to Minnesota. I think it was a great move for Minnesota. Kirk Cousins wanted money, wanted to be a franchise quarterback, wanted to be on a team that trusted him for long term, and Minnesota picked him up. Adding to that great defense and great receiving core, I think getting a guy who can consistently throw around 4,000 yards a year is big. So I like that move.
Yeah, and the biggest move for me, one of my favorite moves, one of the best value moves definitely of the offseason is Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, signing with the Texans. Now that's a team with a great defense up front. They got J.J. Watt and Clowney. In the secondary, they're good, but they could use that one playmaker, and Mathieu is definitely a playmaker, and they only got him for 1 year, $7 million. That is ridiculous for one of the top safeties in the league.
Yeah.
And so with him, with Deshaun Watson back, with the receivers that they had, Hopkins last year, I think that they're going to be a big contender in the AFC South.
Definitely a dark horse team.
Yeah.
I was really shocked to see the Cardinals let Mathieu go.
I know, and for just such little money.
Exactly.
Crazy.
It was a steal for that team,
I know.
definitely. On the other hand, a big head scratcher was the Miami Dolphins signing Brock Osweiler. This team has 3 quarterbacks on the roster already.
Right.
Ryan Tannehill's coming off the ACL injury, so there's still question marks on whether or not he'll play good still. But Matt Moore has been a proven solid backup, so at least you have 2 quarterbacks on the roster. And Jay Cutler is still technically on the roster. Many people believe he'll hang it up this year and go into the booth. I don't know if that's better or worse than playing on the field. But they're bringing in Osweiler, who he's been bouncing around, obviously, after getting that monster contract with Houston. And he's going to go there. He's probably going to try to compete for the number 1 job. But I believe Tannehill's going to get 1, and Moore's definitely going to get 2. I believe he should get 2.
Yeah. And I'm also picking a former AFC West quarterback as my head scratcher, and that is Alex Smith. Alex Smith is not a special player. He's old now. He had a good season last year, but that was under the guidance of Andy Reid, one of the great coaches in the NFL. And I just feel like Washington isn't gaining anything from getting Smith. Like, I see him and Cousins as practically the same player.
Exactly.
So why trade assets to get Alex Smith, who's the check down king, and then let go of your young quarterback? And then they went out and gave Smith a huge contract with a lot of guaranteed money. And he's old now, so how long will he be able to produce at a high level? And his high level isn't even that high, and it's definitely not any higher than what Kirk Cousins could have done. No. So that just baffled me a little bit, why they would have to make a trade for someone like that instead of just retaining Cousins, who has helped them out of the RG3 debacle where they really messed up, and he's elevated them to a higher level. But
yeah, Kirk Cousins also, besides you said being younger, I mean, he's consistently good. He was one of the brightest spots on that roster these past couple of years, and even this year in their down year, he was still put up good numbers. Still got a lot of scouts looking at him for this free agent season. But to go get Smith, who has been one of the most conservative quarterbacks in his career with San Fran, which he lost the job to Kaepernick, and now loses a job to Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you're going to bring him into Washington with a team that has no good receivers. I mean, their offense is quiet. Their defense is okay at best. They have a couple of big names, but that's it. And they're going into a division that has the defending champs who are stacking up still in players. You got the Cowboys who are stacking up, and the Giants who, if they can stay healthy, might be a contender this year, maybe not. But still, it's a tough division, and to trade away a guy who's familiar to get someone
Alex Smith doesn't put you over the top. Alex Smith doesn't need that division.
After the break, Jake and I will argue who we believe won this year's offseason. Welcome back to Red Alert. I don't know about you, Jake, but I think the biggest winner this year has been the LA Rams. I mean, from big free agent signings to big trade moves, this team has done it all.
They've made a lot of noise.
Lots of noise. The biggest free agent signings for them have been Aqib Talib off the Broncos. The team was talking about releasing the receivers, but they ended up releasing him, and then they got him to add to that corner, that good secondary. They got Ndamukong Suh, who was released from the Dolphins, adding to the front with Aaron Donald. They got Sam Shields off the Packers, who's been hurt the past couple of years, but I think if he gets back to being what he used to be, he'll be a solid 2-3 corner for the team. They re-signed LaMarcus Joyner, who was one of their best corners last year. He'll bring back more of a veteran presence for the team, understand the playbook more. And then they traded for Marcus Peters, which I think was one of the biggest offseason moves so far. Peters played for the Chiefs a couple of years. He's one of the best corners by far. Yeah. This past 2-3 years he's been in the league. The team got him for pretty much a steal. The Chiefs pretty much cleaned house, and Rams picked up on Marcus Peters, and I think it was a good move. I think this team is really exciting for next year.
Yeah, they're looking stacked on the defensive end, and the past few years their thing has been, oh, we got the great front seven, we're going to beat you up front, but yet they haven't had those big headliners in the secondary. Now they got those guys, and with Wade Phillips, the engineer behind that Broncos defense that was so dominant on their Super Bowl run, this team can make a lot of noise, and they're definitely scary. And if their quarterback, Jared Goff, can keep up at his pace and even improve from last year, they're going to make a lot of noise in the NFC.
Definitely.
My biggest winner, well, we may not see a lot of wins from them, but I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns. I think they've made a lot of good moves. They were very, very active at the beginning of the offseason, and everyone on Twitter was like, oh my God, the Browns traded for me. They just made so many deals. They got Jarvis Landry, they got Tyrod Taylor, they got Carlos Hyde, a bunch of quarterbacks, Demarius Randall, TJ Carey. And now, listen, they're coming off a 0-win season, so we're not talking about, they're going to win the division or whatever, but this is a team. They're building up to something, and they also have 2 top 4 picks in the upcoming draft. So they take Saquon with the first pick, which I think they should do, and then they take a quarterback with the 4th pick to maybe develop a little, but hopefully eventually take over from Tyrod, because I don't think Tyrod is going to be the guy. He wasn't the guy in Buffalo, certainly, and he's not going to be the guy in Cleveland. But if they're going to be improved next year, they will win at least one game. I'm going to guarantee that right now. So I'm looking forward to seeing them play. It's always interesting seeing the Browns play because they always suck, and you're like, oh, get a win or something. But
hoping for 1 year they actually do something.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackson's 2 years, 1-31 record. They've hit rock bottom. This team.
It's not what you want.
I feel like the only way is up from now on. I think they made a lot of good moves. Like you said, you're in a tough division. The Steelers are always good contenders. The Bengals, if they're a hit or miss team, and the Ravens are always usually good. So obviously you're not going to win the division right away. But I think even a 3 or 4 win season for this team is a step up, and it's showing you great strides.
You want to see improvement, and you want to see better coaching.
Exactly.
And I think that with Josh Gordon out there going over the top, and you got Landry, underneath, that's going to be a nice combo for whatever quarterback's thrown to him next season.
Yeah. They've definitely reached. They've actually gone over expectations, this team, and I'm actually really, really excited to see how they do. I'm a Steeler fan. I'm not supposed to like the Browns, but I always kind of root for them down in the heart because you can't.
Little brother.
0-16, you can't hope for that every year. So
it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Before we wrap things up, name something that you want to see happen next year, or before the start of this upcoming season.
Well, I'm hoping to see the Buffalo Bills trade up in the upcoming NFL draft to take a quarterback. They signed A.J. McCarron, and they actually got a great deal for him. I think he's a solid quarterback, and he could be a starter. But again, he's not going to be the guy that's going to take Buffalo to the next level. And so they have the 13th pick that they just traded up for, and they have another pick in the early 20s in this year's draft. So I think they're going to try to look to trade up to the 2nd spot where the Giants are sitting, especially if the Browns end up taking Barkley. Because I think that's the Giants guy. They're not, they're not really sold on a quarterback. But if the Giants can get 2 first-round picks for that pick, they can help build up the depth on their team, which they certainly lacked last year. And Buffalo has a history of trading up. They traded up for Sammy Watkins a few years ago. So I think if they are looking to make noise, they will trade up, take a quarterback, because A.J. McCarron will not lead them back to the playoffs.
Oh yeah, no, he's definitely an interim guy. We saw with the Bengals, he got them in the playoffs, played pretty good, but he's definitely not the next franchise guy. I don't see him being like a Kirk Cousins to take over and become a great player. I think he's like a C+ guy. He'll stay C+ the rest of his career. But I got to go with a move that's already like a move that's been kind of in the works. We've been hearing it through the media that Odell Beckham Jr. might be out of New York. Now, I've heard 2 possibilities where he might go. I've been hearing Cleveland, which would be the reunion of the LSU stars, Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham. That'd be crazy with Josh Gordon. They would definitely improve. I think they'd go from 3 or 4 wins to like 6 maybe. I've thrown them up 2 more wins.
Watch out.
They're definitely a better team. But I've also been hearing that they might go to the Rams. There's been a lot of word that they might send him to the Rams, which would add to an already awesome offense with Gurley. You got Goff, who's young. He needs some star receivers.
Yep.
I think if you add him to that already dominant defense that they've built this offseason, that Rams team will be scary.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be the favorite if they add him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Odell's monster contract has been questions and his attitude. So I think he's going to be gone. I'd love to see that. Mm-hmm. That's all the time we have for the show. From all of us here on Red Alert, we hope to see you next time.